Joe Collins is a husband and father of two boys who lives in Blacksburg, Virginia. He's a veteran of both the Marines and the U.S. Army, and he's seen plenty of combat.
Our fire team and our vehicle was hit 11 times by IEDs. Our company was hit approximately 150 times, and we found probably the same amount of that.
When Joe returned from Iraq, he felt like law enforcement was one place where he could continue to serve.
Obviously, you have a lot of veterans coming back. They're getting out of the military, and they're looking for something with that same type brotherhood.
He loved the 14 years he spent as a cop, but he says police work is becoming increasingly dangerous.
It's getting worse. It's getting worse. That means it's getting more dangerous for the men in brown and blue and whatever uniform they wear.
Police work has always been a tough job, and no one says cops are perfect. But violence against law enforcement is rising. So far in 2016, officer deaths by shooting are up 300% from the previous year, with a marked increase in ambush-style attacks. In February, policewoman Ashley Gwindon was murdered responding to a domestic disturbance in Virginia. It was her first day on the job. She was the 10th officer to die in the line of duty in February. Police often have to make split-second decisions, and with cell phones and surveillance cameras everywhere, many cops today fear their next call could end up as a viral video, possibly ending their career or even their life. Mike Cowan is a SWAT officer in Mississippi.
I do think that there's certainly some hesitation, and I'm a firm believer hesitation will get you killed. There's certainly a willingness to let things slide maybe a little more because it's not worth the paperwork. It's not worth having to try to explain yourself because people don't feel like they have the administration's backing or they're concerned about what the press is going to do with it.
Michael Wood is an author and contributor to the website Police One.
I think there's a degree of difference in the lack of support that officers are getting today compared to what their grandfathers had several generations before. It has a chilling effect on these officers when they realize that if they do their job, that they're going to be vilified in the media, and they're not going to be supported by their agencies, and they're not going to do the job as vigorously as they might have before.
When you talk about some of these big nationwide events and all the press that they've gotten, one of the things that seems to get lost on the media is that these guys were criminals, and they were resisting law enforcement.
I would venture to say that the large percentage of law enforcement as a whole across the nation has that very feeling. I think they're very frustrated. I think the trust from their government, the trust from their own chain of command, they've got to wonder if it's there.
With violence rising, tactics and equipment which were developed by the military are now being used to make policing safer in the face of rising violence. It's a move many have criticized, including the President of the United States.
You know, we've seen how militarized gear can sometimes give people a feeling like there's an occupying force as opposed to a force that's part of the community that's protecting them and serving them. Can alienate and intimidate local residents and send the wrong message.
Crime has gotten worse. We need the tools, law enforcement needs the tools to be able to handle those situations.
Police deaths in the line of duty have declined since the 1970s when they hit their peak by about a third, but that doesn't necessarily tell the whole story. Battlefield technologies developed in Iraq and Afghanistan have trickled down to police departments across the country, and that means that an officer who's involved in a shooting has a much better chance today of survival and a much lower chance of ending up on a memorial like this one. While cops are being subjected to increasing restrictions, they're also being asked to carry out a wider range of duties than in the past.
We want him to be an enforcer of the law. We want him to be an attorney. We want him to be a marriage counselor. We want him to be a peer counselor. We want him to be a father figure for somebody. We want him to be able to tell directions at the same time that we want him to be able to shoot somebody and keep them from killing your family.
Our job is to enforce the law. If you don't like the way the laws are, vote in somebody different and get the laws changed and do it the legal way.
Let our officers do their job, for crying out loud. Start respecting the people that provide you the safety and security in your home at night.
Chuck Holton, CBN News.